As promised, I am making a video on basically what's it like, or what has it been like since I got saved on the 6th of October 2015. What's been happening, what's it been like, and who's this video aimed at? I think it's aimed at more probably non-Christians, really, complete heathens, atheists, and also unbelievers, and basically the world, I suppose. You know, people that just, what I call the greys. It's aimed at them if they are interested in such a thing. But obviously, you know, it's aimed at Christians. I've got Christians on this channel as well, but they know the situation, so all they're going to hear is what they already know anyway, and what it says in Scripture. But it's been an interesting 3 years, let's put it that way. And I would say the journey that led up to it, which I've done a separate video on that was even more bizarre, you know. And I can honestly say that my saving wasn't just a case of just merely believing, as it says in the book of Acts and elsewhere in Scripture. It was more of a calling or a being chosen sort of thing. Not saying I'm something special or something, but that's what it was. More like, you know, the angel Gabriel and Mary. I never saw any angels. I didn't see anything, you know. But there certainly was that night. There was a very overpowering presence in that room, which I'd never seen before, and I've never seen again. Didn't see anything, but there was something there. And it was an experience, an emotional one as well. And my whole life flashed in front of me. It's something like those, a lot of people report when they die, they end up going down this tunnel. There's this white light at the end, and their life's flashing in front of them. And then suddenly, woof, they get, if they actually recover, they come back. It's that sort of thing, isn't it? And it wasn't like that. I wasn't on death's door. I was still very healthy and alive, but it was that similar sort of thing. You start to realise, I was shown the error of my ways, I suppose. That's what happened for me. Certainly a lot of the stuff I went through, I'll be honest, it doesn't line up with Scripture at all. It more lines up with, say, I don't know, Moses and the burning bush, Mary and the angel Gabriel, did this sort of thing. You know, it was more like that. And Paul, I can relate to him. You know, his experience was, it wasn't your normal sort of getting saved sort of thing, was it? It was pretty much out there. But in the 3 years, I would say the following day there were dramatic changes I noticed straight away, and there were, I'd say over the 3 year period, there've been more subtle changes. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break it down into, you know, the different things, I suppose. What could be FAQs? What's it like? What's this? What's that? I'll just try and answer as many questions as I can. I want to keep this video as short as possible, try and keep it under 20 minutes. So here we go. The first one probably is, have I ever seen or have I ever heard Jesus? I've heard Jesus twice. Both times were in a church. I was praying once and there was a whispering in my ear, and I remember turning around and there was nobody there, nothing there at all. And it was very clear. And the second time I was in the church again, another one. This one was in the middle of nowhere, and it was a bit of a bizarre situation, but to cut a long story short, I ended up in the church in the middle of nowhere, which I'd never been to before in my life, and I haven't been to since. And it was round about Christmas time, and it was empty, you know, but the door was open. And I went in, there's one of these really small ones, you know, and I just went in there and prayed and stuff like that, and then for some reason I just broke down and I asked the question quite strongly, you know, and this was around about the very early days when I was trying to set up this channel and do all these things, and I asked for certain things, you know. I said, I can't go just like this, I need certain things. And it was 4 words, as I had recently. 4 words were in that church. I heard the voice, 4 words, and I responded, yeah. And it was a soft voice, but it filled the whole church. Yeah, he was there. There's nobody else in the place. I looked round, I turned the place upside down, there's nobody there. Yeah, and And even if there was, I prayed silently. They wouldn't have known what the question was, but that the answer was 4 words, and I responded. And those things that I asked for were quite specific, and only those things I asked for turned up within about a couple of months. Some took longer than others, you know. That's that. The next time I actually saw him, but I would say I was recently very sick, and I was on a staircase, and I was in absolute agony, and it was that bad. I really thought I was going to die. And if you watch the video, Doctors or Jesus, watch that video. It's there. And I called out, for about 3-4 hours, and he came. Yeah, but maybe I was in such a state that I was imagining things. I don't know, but I did see him like a ball of light, and gradually getting closer, and it was him. And he was on the staircase, you know. And the pain that I had, he touched it, and ever since then, I've had nothing. No, I haven't been to see a doctor since. I've had no problems. The pain's gone. Yeah. So that's the 3 instances I've had there. And, you know, whether you believe these things or not, it's immaterial to me. You know, I'm just telling you as it is. But that's the first one, I suppose. First question out of the way. The second question probably is, what was it like immediately after you were saved, and what changes happened? Well, I went to bed that night, and it was at night it happened, and I literally just went to sleep, and I must have gone into it it felt like a coma. I was in a coma, you know what I mean, the sort of thing. When I woke up, the alarm was going on my mobile. I always hear it. It sounded like it was about 100 miles away and gradually getting louder and louder. It was like I was coming out of a coma. Yeah, I remember getting up, and then I think this was around about October time, so it was fairly dark in the morning. Yeah, it was October the 6th, so around about then. It was, you know, I get up very early, like 5 in the morning, so it was pitch black when I left to do what I do. And it was in London, and I remember walking down the road, and it was still dark then, you know, but I just looking at people, everything looked different for some reason. Yeah. Everything looked a bit, I don't know, I can't explain it. But as soon as I went into McDonald's, had me a cup of tea and all the rest of it, and check emails, all this sort of thing, came out, it was about quite a bit later, the daylight had broken then, and I remember walking, it's a very busy part of town, and walking down the road, and I could smell, there's more, it's like the rush hour, people rushing around. I could smell like the car fumes, I could smell somebody coming down the road. I could smell the cigarette about 100 yards down the road, you know. I could smell somebody smoking ganja. And looking at people, I was looking as if I could sort of understand what they're all about, you know. And it was like, I was looking around, and I thought, the first thing went from my mind, I thought, I'm not like these people, you know. These people are just rushing around, they're obsessed with their worldly things that they do, isn't it? And that was the first thought that came in my mind. But certainly my senses were heightened, and I think a lot of people report like stuff like colours become more intense and things like that. They've had that sort of thing. But for me, it was certainly sense of taste and sense of smell for me. I wouldn't say that I didn't notice things were more vibrant or anything. Didn't notice that at all. I had this overpowering urge to go to a church, to find a church, you know. And I automatically thought that you have to find a building or something like that, you know, and that's where I went. And I've done a video on this, you know. I can go on with many other things, but they were the initial changes, you know. And the one thing I noticed was an inner peace. Yeah, that's I would say the overwhelming thing, this complete and utter inner peace. The world hadn't changed around me. My life hasn't changed. My life's always been chaotic. But there was this inner peace I just can't explain. There's this calmness within the storm that is the world, isn't it? But I felt that day, from this day forward, I felt a separation. I felt I'm not like these people anymore. I can't, to the extent I can't have anything to do with these people. That's how strong it is. And I can go on, but I want to keep this video short. The next question probably is, the third one is, do you still sin? Yes, I do. I still sin. Now here's the thing. Here's my theory on basically if you are a Christian and a non-Christian. If you're a non-Christian, I think everybody is born with a bit of the Spirit. I think they are. It's that little nagging voice that tells you something, what you're about to do is either right or wrong, isn't it? Or if you do that thing, you do a sin or whatever it is, then there's that something kicks back afterwards, the guilt, the shame, or whatever it is, isn't it? Yeah. So I think we are, before we become saved, and become a true believer, as I call it, true Christian, then you've got that already. It's there. You've got some a negligible amount of the Spirit. But when you get saved, you get a massive dose of the Spirit. Yeah. And this, over a period of time, I think you receive more of it, I think. Yeah. I think in the early stages it's too much. You can only receive a certain amount. Multiplies that feeling when you do something wrong or right, or that gut feeling you get is multiplied 100-fold, to the extent that if you do go ahead and sin, you are convicted of that sin afterwards, and you're on your knees asking for forgiveness. Yeah, that's the only way I can describe it, really. And but yeah, you still sin, but I would say, as I said before, 90% reduction at least in the amount of sin you produce. You've got to remember, we're still flesh. We've been saved, and the Holy Spirit is planted inside us, but we're still flesh, isn't it? I suppose the fourth question, probably a very popular one, is, have you found that people notice the change in you? Yes, they do. They have noticed a change. And also, I find this, and I'm sure some other Christians will agree with this. I walk down the road and I do get sometimes looks from people. I'm just walking down the road, but I can see out of the corner of my eye they're looking, and they see something there. They see something there that is not your normal everyday sort of thing, and they don't know what it is. And they look, and it's never a look of smiling or anything like that. It's a very serious, even sort of an accusing sort of look, but they don't know what they're accusing you of, but they don't like what they see. They don't, it's like a light walking down the road, and it's shining on. It makes people feel uncomfortable, I think, that, things, and you look at people maybe the way the Lord looks at people, isn't it? He sees their shortcomings, and he understands that people are not perfect. He understands that, and this, I suppose, one of the gifts that's given to you, isn't it? But certainly, I've had it a number of times, especially I get these demonic types. I had it once, this is very recently, I had it in, funny enough again, McDonald's. I was sitting there, and when you can feel somebody looking at you and staring, and this was at the other side of the room. We're talking a good sort of 40, 50 feet the other side. I turned round and just looked in the direction where I could feel this, whatever it was, and there's a bloke there, really evil looking type, and he's just sitting there looking, and he didn't shift, and I just sat there and I just looked at him, just neutral face. And I see his face drop, and then he looked away and he looked at the floor like that, But you could see, like he was chewing a wasp. He had a big issue, whatever it was, and he was definitely looking at me. Yeah. And then I looked again, and that's it, he was just looking at the floor, And that's it. You shine that light in their direction, and these types, they back off. Not a word was said, but he got the message, Didn't look in a threatening manner, just neutral. And just real eyeball contact, and that's it. They just back off. The fifth question is probably, did you know straight away what you would be doing once you were born again. We've all got a role to play. It says some people become teachers, some people become preachers, some people become healers, some people become prophets, and all the rest of it, isn't it? There's a big long list. Some people have the gift of speaking in tongues, that sort of thing. Yes, I did. Yeah, within a very short period of time. The name, the 12 Gates, I bought that domain, and then I got a YouTube channel, and I realised that I'm going to be writing about the last days, the end times, that sort of thing. What's happening in the world now, trying to create awareness to people, what is happening in the world now, that things aren't normal, that things are very much in the end times. We're not in the, as I keep saying, that last days, the last 7 years, but we're in that end times. We're getting very close to that period, and people need to be made aware of what's going on, isn't it? And not turn it into some sort of circus show just to get views and likes and that sort of thing, but actually approach it at a grassroots level. And basically I realised very early on my job was a watchman. Keep an eye on the news, put it out there, and it's really, the channel's really designed for non-Christians, the world basically, you know. And I mean, if I bring some people closer to Jesus in the process, then all well and good. But if it has raised awareness, then they realise pretty soon on the channel that you can't prepare for this. You know what's coming. Things are escalating. We are on the verge of major upheaval, and these end times are real, and we're in those times now. So yeah, I set up a blog, I set up the YouTube channel, and the name was the 12 Gates, which, believe me, didn't come from me. Didn't come from me at all. But the 12 Gates, by the way, is taken from the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation, and it's mentioned in the closing chapters, isn't it? This New Jerusalem comes out of the sky, and it's got 12 gates, doesn't it? Yeah, and that's what it's named after. So I suppose the next question is, how has your life changed after this? You know, over, say, a period of 3 years, what's happened? Well, I mean, a lot of things happened before I got saved. Things started dropping away. I noticed things on my phone that, you know, I thought, this is not right. You know, this is not the way. These shouldn't be on your phone. You know, this isn't right. Got rid of those. A lot of things I used to do have changed. I mean, now, if you take me now, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, I don't watch porn, I don't even watch TV. There you go. I don't even watch TV. I watch YouTube, yeah, but I don't even watch TV. Yeah, I just see it, and I'm a bit like that Agathia woman, I suppose. She's watched it a couple of times, but she just lives there in her hut. I don't live in a hut, but at the end of the day, I don't get involved with anything of the world. I do read the papers and I do keep up with the news, yeah, but I don't watch TV at all. As I said, all those other things, I don't do those either. And you can run a long list of things, the things I used to do before. I used to have a bad temper, shouting and screaming, all the rest of it, and none of those things, they've all gone now, you know. Occasionally I may raise my voice, and there may be some righteous anger does surface on occasion, but it's a bit like sort of, I don't know, Jesus overthrowing the tables when he saw the money changers in the temple, wasn't it? That sort of situation, yeah. But I've never really lost my temper with anybody, really, to be honest, since I've been saved. And I used to lose my temper all the time. So that's changed. So many things have changed. You wouldn't believe. But like I said, I've noticed a lot of things. It's a gradual process. Some of the things I'm still battling with now, you know, certain things. And I can see that they are gradually decreasing in strength over time. These are things the sort of fleshly things, I suppose, that I'm battling with, and they are decreasing over time. When I got saved, it's given me the power to, to overcome my flesh, basically. Yeah, which I know I've tried many times before and failed miserably, you know. And with being saved, it has given me, I suppose it's like, the analogy I saw once is basically, for us to save ourselves, it would involve climbing Mount Everest and then staying there indefinitely. You know what I mean? Well, what happens is when you get saved, Jesus puts you on that mountain, saves you the climbing to get there, because you're always going to fall, you're always going to stumble and end up going back to ground zero again, isn't it? He puts you up there and he just says, right, now just stay there. Just stay where you are, yeah? And that's it. And he gives you the power to stay there. I think that's a good analogy. I saw that somewhere. I can't remember what channel it was. But certainly that's the way it's been for me. And yeah, believe me, I've fallen down a few times. I maybe sort of gone down off the pinnacle a quarter of the way down or something like that. But I managed to crawl my way back up again and get back up there to the top. Here's another question. I suppose it's not really a question people would ask, but I'm going to answer it anyway, is did I believe in Jesus before I got saved? Yes, I did. And this is the thing, you see. I come from not a religious family. I say my mother, she used to get all religious at Christmas. We used to get the little sort of children's Bible out and read it to me. I remember as a kid, and we used to go to the church and sit there and go to the nativity scene and all that carry on, just once a year. That's what we used to do. My mother's father, my grandfather, he was very religious, heavily religious, and that's where my mother got it from. And from that, I suppose there was a little bit. And my father was about as unreligious as you can get, but he knew quotes in the Bible. He knew a lot of the stuff in there, yeah. But he didn't live his life by it. And this is the thing. This is the thing that I think that really nails it on the head. I believed in God. I believed there was a God, yeah. And I believed in Jesus in the Bible. And I believed a lot of the things in the Bible. A lot of it I didn't believe, but a lot of it I did believe, yeah. And I'd read a children's Bible when I was very young. I got it as a Christmas present. I read it from cover to cover. So I'd read a Bible, and I believed a lot of it, And I believed in Jesus, and I believed there was a God, yeah, of some description. And it does say in Acts, doesn't it, that if you believe, then you're saved, isn't it? But that's not strictly true, is it? I'm not saying that Acts is incorrect, but I'm just saying what they're trying to say is with that, it does mention about if you believe with your heart. And I think that's the crunch line, isn't it? That night I believed, yeah. I truly believed that there was a Jesus. I did on that night. And that's what saved me. I truly believe, to the extent that I would put my life on the line for Jesus, yeah, for his cause. I would put my life on the line. We're all marching towards that cross, aren't we? The very same cross. If we are Christians, Christians, yeah, he died on the cross. We're all marching to our very own cross as well, isn't it? And that's something I realised on that night. It was made very clear, and I said yes. So I think it's very important to realise that before I got saved, I believed there was a God. I believed in Jesus. I believed the Bible. I read a Bible, yeah, but my life was not a reflection of what the Bible tells us how to live. It wasn't. I was a sinner, yeah, and that's it. Especially when I got to my teenage years and when I left home. And all the rest of it, and I came to London, then, that was it. I was in, complete heathen mode, I really was. Drinking, smoking, all the rest of it, and wine, women and song, I suppose, and just party, and that's it, and just very selfish. Yeah, and just me, career, money, fast cars, and all the rest of it. That was it, and I think, to be perfectly honest, that's what most people are like, isn't it, at that age? So my life was not a reflection of what is mentioned in the Bible, just like everybody else. I was aware of the Ten Commandments, and I can honestly say that most of the things of the Ten Commandments I've probably done, apart from, say, committing adultery and murder, those two things. But everything else I've probably done, and probably most other people are guilty of it as well, isn't it? But I was a sinner, and I could see, when my life flashed before me that night, I realised I could see what was wrong. And there was nothing that I could personally do to change that. The only person that can change that, make you see the error of your ways and show you a path, a narrow way to the door, as is mentioned in the Bible, isn't it? Is Jesus, isn't it? And he's the only way to the Father. Yeah. Here's another question I think maybe people may think of is, have you ever thought about being unsaved? Maybe just turning the clock back and just go back to your old worldly self and all the rest of it. Has that ever come across your mind? Yes, it has. Very recently it has. And a couple of times, around about Christmas time, I do sort of start watching TV and watching things, worldly stuff. I do. And that's it. So in a sort of rebellion, I think, just 2 days, please. Let me just watch what I want to watch instead of this, blocking all this stuff out, And yeah. So, but I wouldn't say... Recently, I've had a few instances where I suppose I have been, you could say, punished. Yeah, I've been punished a couple of times for a slight bit of rebellion, I suppose. And I would say that once you're saved, it's like you're put on a dog leash, and that's it. A rebellious person, like a Rottweiler, and you're on a dog leash. And as soon as it starts, making that noise, the yank on the lead, and pulls you back and keeps you in line. That's what it feels like to me, and it's a good thing. It keeps me on the straight and narrow, I suppose. But there's been times where one time I shouted out to the Lord. I said, Lord, I've had enough of this. I can't take any more. And just take this thing back. I don't want it anymore. That's what my exact words were. Take it back. I don't want it. Yeah, if it's going to be like this, take this thing back. I was going for a sort of a Book of Job situation at the time. And you're going to go through trials and tribulations. You will. And I just shouted out. I said, look, if it's going to be like this, I'm not like Job. Yeah? I'm not somebody that's had an easy life. And you're going to test my faith and all the rest of it. I haven't had an easy life. I've had an amazing life, but it hasn't been easy. Yeah, and at the end of the day, I said, take this thing back. If this is what it's going to be like, take it back. I don't want it. Yeah, and obviously silence. Ever since then, I repented of that statement. I regretted saying those words. The Spirit convicted me, I suppose, within a few days, and I sort of said, I take back what I say, and I did it in a prayer, and you give me this amazing thing, but sometimes it is tough, but he knows, doesn't he? That's it. But as you progress in the faith, it's 3 years for me now, I'm still a toddler, in the Christian terms of things. You've got some people who've been in the faith since a baby. I've come very late in my life. My later years, sort of middle-aged years, and it's been a massive change in my life, and I think maybe as a child it's probably not so, because you don't know any different, do you? But when you sort of lived your life pretty much as a complete and utter rebel, and then suddenly to be shifted around to this sort of righteous way of living and becoming a Christian and trying to be holy and this sort of thing, it's a massive change, isn't it? Another question people ask is, do you, say you're walking down the road, can you spot fellow Christians? Yes, I can. Yeah, I'm talking true believers, as I use that word now, true believers. Many people call themselves Christians, but true believers. Would you put your life on the line for Jesus as he put his life on the line for you? Yeah? Are you willing to be tortured, persecuted, and all the rest of it? Yeah, forget all the fluffy stuff, the peace, love and joy, which I always say at the end of the video. Yeah, that's part of the Christian thing, isn't it? But there's also persecution on the other side of it as well, isn't there? And if you're just there for the good times, then you're not a Christian, are you? You're going to be there for the suffering as well. Just read the book of Acts, it's all there, Stephen, John, all the rest of it. It's there, isn't it? And even Jesus himself. They all suffered, Paul as well. So Christianity is about suffering, but through that suffering you learn a lot, Another question, I suppose, is that there are mention of gifts in the Bible. What gifts did you think you received? I think I received the gift of prophecy, understanding prophecy, analysing prophecy, as opposed to being a prophet like Isaiah, I don't receive dreams and none of this stuff and then, that sort of stuff directly from the Lord. I just pick up the word, and I think I can understand what Isaiah's getting at, Jeremiah and all the rest of it, and the book of Revelation. Well, yeah, the book of Revelation I would say is an exception, but As I said in one video, I don't think anybody truly understands that book. It's not a closed book, but it's one of those books I think it will reveal itself nearer the time. Everything will make sense, but until then, it will not make sense at all. And anybody who says it does make sense is talking completely and utter rubbish. But certainly that. I would say also patience. And I would say I'm not particularly a patient person, especially with people. Before I was saved, now I'm a lot more patient, I think. And also, I would say wisdom, certainly. Yeah, wisdom. I'd say they're the three main things. Another question is, does getting saved help you understand the Bible? Yes, it does. Before, I read I don't recommend this at all. I read the book of Revelation 50 times trying to understand it. And even now, I don't really fully understand it, but obviously I understand it a lot more now. But I read the Bible. When I read it, I've read the Bible before, and when I got saved, that's the first thing I did. You'll get a hunger to go to find a church, and you'll get the hunger to read the Bible. You'll get anything, if it's a phone or if it is download a PDF file, and that's it. You'll be on that thing. I started reading the Bible, I think, when was it? I got saved October the 6th, and I finished February the 6th. 4 months. I read the whole Bible in 4 months, and that, a lot of people say is, it's very quick. And I got to say, and the King James Version as well, of all things. And I had an almighty headache at the end of it, I tell you. But I understood it. I cried at the end. When I got to Revelation, I read it there. I cried. I was reading in the library, I think, at the time. I just burst into tears. It all made sense. It all fitted in, and I thought, good grief, after all this time, I've read the Bible as a child, I've read bits of it, and, really didn't really get the full meaning of it, but then you realise what it's all about. You think, good grief, what a powerful book, isn't it? So many. And the more you look into it, the more amazing it is, isn't it? As I keep saying, it's a spider's web. The Old and New Testament, they're completely linked. They're not separate. That's why they're in one book, but they're called the Old and New Testament, isn't it? Which I've made a video on that as well, isn't it? So yeah, it does. When you get saved, it gives you like a sort of an umbilical cord to the Lord, I suppose, and that's His word, and you read it and you will understand. Yeah. But to people that are in the world, people that are non-believers and all the rest of it, they read it. It's just like reading a bit of literature or something, isn't it? Think, oh, that's lovely, isn't it? All these people going here, going there, and people getting married, having babies, and oh, it's lovely, isn't it? And then there's the end times, and yeah, fantastic. But they don't see there is a hidden meaning in there, isn't there? And it is fully revealed to you when you're saved. It is. A few words on fellowship, I suppose. What's happened? When I first joined a church, I went to churches all over the place. As I said, I went to 60 or 70. Watch my video on why I left the church system. But at that time, I had fellowship. But like I said in one of my videos, it was like a sheep being amongst a load of goats. That's what it was like. But they accepted me in this one church. That was my home church. And then in Hertfordshire, and I had another one in London I used to go to just to pray to. I never used to go to the services. And I was in that church 6 months, and then I went to another one down the road for another 6 months, so about a year in all, and then I left. I realised that I was being called out, and you had to get out of it. I've done the video on it. I'm not going to repeat myself, but so what's happened since that? Well, since then, I can honestly say I do miss the fellowship side. I haven't really managed to get round that issue, but I have this channel here. I've got thousands of followers on here. There's people leaving their views and thoughts. There's fellowship there, isn't there? I can always get in touch with anybody here. We're all brothers and sisters, isn't it? That's it. It's like family, isn't it? And we're all connected to the same thing, isn't it? We all believe in the same thing. That's fellowship, isn't it? I think that's what it is. It's not meeting up in a building and sitting there singing whatever it is and doing 3 Hail Marys and all that sort of thing. It's not really, that's not Christianity, is it? But as I said in the video, and I'm not going to repeat myself on that, but I did get called out, and I would say, so fellowship, it's a tricky one, because it's like I see this street preacher the other day. I remember seeing one street preacher once. in the same area. There was an older guy, and he was there shouting and screaming as they do, and he's waving his finger, and people were walking past, and you could see he was getting their back up, And I just stood there, listened, and then he was talking away, and he made eye contact with me, and he could see I was interested, but he thought, no, this guy's a Christian, I can see he's born again. And he started coming out with all this stuff, and I just sat there nodding my head like that, and smiled, and I could feel some tears welling up in my eyes. Anyway, I walked off, and I came around the side, and he was watching me walking, and I said, keep up the good work, my friends, you're superb, And he smiled and nodded, and that was it. I just walked off. I didn't want to interrupt his flow, but and that's it. Again, that's fellowship, isn't it? I see another street preacher, as I said recently. I've seen him. I haven't seen him the last couple of weeks, but I spoke with him. Sometimes I just stand there with him, give him a bit of moral support for 5 minutes. I can see it's quite nerve-wracking standing there. You don't know what's going to come next. You could get attacked. You could have somebody throw some acid in your face. You don't know, do you? Somebody spit at you. Somebody come club you over the head with a baseball bat. There's types like that out there, isn't there? And I stand there with him, shoulder to shoulder, could get the same treatment. And that's it. That's fellowship, isn't it? But it'd be nice to sort of have some sort of place where you meet up with, like-minded people. But you've got to be careful that you don't go back to what you left. You end up creating what you left, isn't it? Which is basically another institutional church, isn't it? Giving it some denomination. That's not the answer, isn't it? I still, to this day, I don't know what the answer is, but so I just carry on doing what I'm doing. I don't go to church. I pray in the morning and I pray in the evening, and I'm constantly aware when I see people, and there's a connection there, that umbilical cord, isn't it? And I see these people, and that's it. And sometimes I just walk past and they look at me, I look at them, and I just nod and they nod back, and I see, they know, another true believer. I don't know, the house church thing, I've thought about that. You see what they're doing in China. That's what they did back in the book of Acts, isn't it? Met up in houses. So there's something I'm looking at. But I'm not 100% happy with my fellowship thing. I feel like I'm a bit sort of on my own sort of thing, which is not really what Christianity is. But I'm not on my own. I know I'm never on my own. Jesus is always there all the time. Another question you could say is, do you regret sort of getting saved later in life when it would have been better maybe to get saved when you're younger? That's a difficult question to answer, that, because to be perfectly honest, I did have a good time when I was young. And I think if I would have got saved when I was young, I would have missed out on all that stuff. I know you've got the power to, once you get saved, to overcome that, isn't it? All that worldly, fleshly desires and lusts, isn't it? When you're young, I don't know. I think in a lot of ways probably it was better that I got saved when I was older. As it mentions a lot of times, I think with the children of Israel, he said to them, he could see the error of their ways, they're going their own way. Let them go their own way, and let them find out themselves the error of their ways, and they'll come back to me in their own time. There is something about that, a Bible quote about that. He let them go, didn't he? And that's it. And I think that's what happens with myself. And I think I had to find it. I'm too strong-minded. At the end of the day, I had to try everything in life, try to do everything, and then finally realise that there's something not right here. And that night, it all snapped in together. That's what's missing. And that's it. And I said, yes, basically. I believe, and I want to be a Christian, a true Christian, true believer. And that's it. I'll let Jesus into my life, and the changes happens overnight, instantly. But a lot of the stuff, it does take longer, and you will still battle, and it gets harder, I think. That's another thing. That's another answer to a question is, when you first get saved, it's like you are born again. You feel like you're a little baby in your mother's arms, or it is, and it's that sort of situation. You're very vulnerable, and not much pressure, I don't think, is put on you. There is. I mean, I landed on the ground running, and I set up a YouTube channel. I had a blog and Twitter, putting news out there, and all the rest of it. It pretty much was within about weeks, and it was called the 12 Gates, and that's it. And that didn't come from me at all, as I keep saying. I would say things are fairly easy when you start, but as you progress in the Christian faith, I found, 3 years now, you will go through trials and tribulations. And your faith, I think, will be tested. It will be tested. And like I said, for me, it was tested recently when I was in extreme pain. I was unable to get my phone to ring an ambulance. I was at work, inside a building, sort of on the staircase, sort of emergency staircase. There was nobody in the building. There was nobody there at all. The only option was to crawl out in the street in my underwear, which is what I was in, because I took most of my clothes off because I was absolutely in agony. I couldn't have belts and stuff like that tucking in. It was in my right side as well. And it's funny because I read that in the Bible. That's where Jesus got stabbed, isn't it, on the cross? He got stabbed in that area. Yeah, but that's it. I cried out to Jesus in the end, and since that night, that pain has gone. Yeah, and it hasn't come back. I haven't been to see a doctor either. And that was a test of faith. I'm telling you now. That was basically a time of crisis. Where did I turn to? I turned to Jesus. Yeah. I'm not saying it's the right answer. I still think you should go and see a doctor or whatever it is. But I didn't have any other options. I wouldn't have got down. The only option I had was to crawl down a quarter flights of stairs and just bail out into the street and just crawl into the gutter, and hopefully somebody sees me there shivering. I was sweating, in agony, writhing in the street, and hopefully somebody would, do something about it. That was that option, or call out to Jesus. It was just those two options. There was nothing else. Yeah, so, your faith will be tested. I can guarantee you. So, as you progress in the faith, I can honestly say things do get harder. But because you're growing in the faith, you can cope with those things. You're never given more than what you can handle. That's it. That's what I found. And I think the last question, I suppose, if somebody came up to you and said, what would you recommend for me to do to sort my life out? Then I would say, find Jesus, isn't it? That's what I would say. And would I recommend what I've been through to anybody else? Yes, I would. Yeah. Certainly, it's changed my life, it's changed me as a person, and for the better. You know what I mean? There's certain things you'll find in your life, you can't overcome these things, you just can't. And you need help. Yeah, we were made by the Almighty, and He's the only one that can help us with these things. And if you live your life according to the Bible, then you're living your life according to God's Word, isn't it? And that's it, you're not in violation of the way He wants you to live, isn't it? And that's what being saved is all about. That Holy Spirit is planted inside you, and you will find it very difficult to live in violation of what is written in the Word. You'll find it very difficult indeed. I suppose the very final question is, I did a video on this, is can you lose this thing? Yeah, can it be taken away? I think the answer is no. No, it's basically, in the Old Testament, the Holy Spirit used to follow them around because it was external. And it never worked, did it? They always strayed away all the time, didn't they? A lot of them. Even the blue-eyed boy David, he committed adultery, didn't he? So, the Lord realised that in the New Testament, that the Spirit had to be planted inside, yeah? Once that thing is planted inside, I don't think it can be taken back. And so it's like going down a narrow way, isn't it? It's mentioned, a narrow way, narrow road, and you reach a door. Yeah, and that's what it was like for me. You'll be on a journey. That's what it was for me. A journey, then the door itself it'll be an experience, believe me. It's not something, oh yeah, I believe and that's it. I just don't think it's like that at all. It wasn't like that for me anyway. But that's what it says in the book of Acts. If you believe, well, what does it say? It says you believe with all your heart, doesn't it? It mentions the heart. And it's mentioned many times in the Bible, the heart, mind and soul, isn't it? And that's it. Every cell of your body wants this thing. It comes at a price. It certainly does. You'll be marching towards that cross. But so in summary, has it been worthwhile? Yeah, it has. And I'm glad it's happened at my time of life, I've got the 12 gates. I've actually got a homeless website, and I've got business cards I hand out to Two people I see on the street, I've had dealings with them, and a lot of them have got mental issues, or they're on drugs, or they're drunk, and some I do approach, but very rarely these days. I just give them the card, and I can see, I look at the stats, and they've got the card, and they've checked the website, and then sometimes I walk past that person, and you see them there every day, and you put that card in there, they're gone. Yeah, they managed to get help, and that's it, and that's what I do. And at the moment, I don't put any Bible quotes on there, but I do maybe start doing that, just so they turn the card over, some sort of inspirational Bible quote, which may get them reading the Bible, isn't it? And that is a double thing, isn't it? That they'll actually maybe get saved and believe, and think for them that could be the only way out. These organisations, they can help, but so yeah, I do that. It's mentioned many times in the Bible, helping the needy, the poor, that sort of thing, isn't it? And I just feel a very strong pull to that area. It's not blowing my trumpet, but that's another thing I do. But this time of year, I'm not really that active. Around about sort of, I say, the end of October, when it starts getting cold, till sort of, I don't know, March time, when it's getting cold, that's it. I get out there, and I just look for. You can't help every person, but I did sort of get friendly with one I used to walk past, and I used to sit there with him for about an hour, and we just talk about, I don't know, anything really, politics and this, that, and the other, and I try to give him sort of inspiration and that sort of thing. That's what I used to do, And they used to tell me all the people that used to come up, all these religious types, and I used to tell him, stay away from these, stay away from those, and But he ended up going to a church in the end. He told me he ended up going to a church because he said that's the only place I find peace, and he just used to sit there looking at the Jesus statues, and I think he used to go to the Catholic ones. I said, you maybe don't want to go there, but I mean, I said it's up to you where you go, but at least you're doing something. And he said he believed in Jesus, he believed in God and all that, but I could see he wasn't saved. No, that's what I'm saying. Get back to what I'm saying. It needs more than that. And I told him where he was going wrong, but it's very difficult to get through to people in that situation. But I haven't seen him since. I haven't. But that's what I'll be doing again. There's just keeping an eye on maybe sort of a couple. I find it's the people that are new on the street. They're the ones I try to help. You know the ones that have been out there for a long period of time, and they are just hardened types, and they'll never fit back in society, and they're just going to end up probably dying on the street. And they're quite happy doing that. Those types is a waste of time trying to help them, But it's the ones that are new on the street, they've hit hard times, they're the ones, I see them, they look very naive and innocent, and my website's got a lot of tips on there, and I just give them that card and say, just check that out. They've all got mobiles, they got access to libraries, and they use a computer. Just check it, there's loads of information on there, and it'll give you some street savvy, you know what I mean? Otherwise you can end up getting yourself in some more serious problems, once you're on the street, and especially in London and the big cities. But anyway, that's enough of me talking. I could go on about this all the time, but that's what it's been like for me for the last 3 years. I'm glad Jesus came in my life. He sorted me out. I needed sorting out. And that's the thing. When you get to the stage you realise you need help, and there's no, whatever it is, there's nothing else. There's no institution out there that can actually help you. The only thing that can help you is Jesus himself, isn't it? Get him in your life. Believe. Truly believe. Become a true believer. True Christian. And that's it. And he'll show you. He shows you where to go. You think, well, where do I go from here? He'll show you. Yeah, but you'll go on a journey before you get saved, and certainly afterwards. It's a continuous journey. There's always things going on. But let me say this: he's always there. I know he's always there, watching over my shoulder all the time. Every second he's there watching. Yeah, watching where I'm going, what I'm doing, and yeah, and it's a great feeling, But anyway, this is Frank of the 12 Gates. Keep your eyes firmly fixed on the Lord. And as always, peace, love, and joy.